ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to what is now the final Premier League Fallout Bar in this format of the 2024 Darts Premier League. And this week, we've made our way to Sheffield because one visit to Yorkshire last week wasn't enough. We had to go back there again, much to the horror of my friend and colleague, Cam McFarlane. How are you this evening, mate?
Not so bad at all, mate. Yeah, like you say, at least for us, we only had to watch it from our front rooms. We didn't have to actually go to Yorkshire, so that's a positive. As it upset all the Yorkshire fans that are watching or listening to us. Yeah, it was a pretty good night of darts, to be fair. The brightest thing in Yorkshire, I think, tonight. Well,
Yeah,
actually, no, that's not true. I think we'll have friend of the show, Brad, jumping in and telling us that the brightest thing in Yorkshire tonight was his lot at Ellen Road, I think, who had a decent performance, but
strange.
So let's stick to the darts.
A very strange layout this year for the Premier League because you've probably got to go back. If you're going to have Nottingham as Midlands, and I think most people would, you've got to go all the way back to night 6, 10 weeks ago, before you are what I would consider in the south of England. It's been quite a northern heavy back end. Chat room's already very busy, Cam. Video Smurf is in, Malachi's in, David is in as well. Good evening, everybody in the chat room. Dougie's in also as well. Please, and you all know by now, we're 16 weeks in. Please feel free to get involved at any point in the chat room. We do have a little trick where you have to be subscribed to our channel in order to contribute. But please subscribe so you can get more excellent content and get involved in the chat room. We are, of course, going to, as always, work through this evening's games. We did clarify a few things tonight. There was that one spot at finals night up for grabs. We will definitely talk over that when we review tonight's action. We do now have the final standings in the table, so we know who is collecting what check, certainly for the league stage of this tournament. And we've now got our fixtures for next week. May the 23rd is finals night at the O2 Arena in London. And we now are able to do a little bit of predicting. So please get involved in the chat room. We'll definitely do some predictions a little bit later on and talk about how things are going to be a little bit different. I'm very excited for next week. But before we get to next week, we will work through this evening's action. Daniel's in as well. The chat room's busy already tonight, which is fantastic. And I'm going to, well, it's worked for 16 weeks. So let's carry on in the way that we've done it.
Do what we always do, should we?
Even though this was probably the game, I mean, it did confirm this, I suppose, the top of the table standings. There was the potential for a big swing potentially, but excuse me, that didn't happen. Now, 6-4 to Luke Littler in this opening game, Cam. Closer than certainly us and the rest of the chat room last week. And I'll extend that to the larger online darts team. Closer game than any of us predicted. But in the end, did we really just see what we expected to?
I think we did in the end, but yeah, it was close. Yeah, I had 6-0 and you had 6-1 in this one, which shows what we know once again. But I don't think you can really have a go at us for those predictions. From what we've seen over the last 16 weeks, I think it was absolutely fair to have the predictions we did. Peter Wright played all right tonight.
He did. I think the key thing for Peter tonight, or what made this game probably closer than it would have been in previous weeks, was Peter Wright managed to find 4 out of 5 on his doubles. Yeah. So now Peter Wright hasn't posted anything close to an 80% doubling ratio, other than there have been games where his average has meant that he's won one leg with one double. But in terms of a game that's gone 10 legs, 80% is that's probably what's got him there. And the doubling we've seen from him in previous weeks he grabbed an extra couple of legs, and I think a lot of us gave him that. And we're going to end up saying this, I think, a few times through the course of the show. Did Luke Littler go through the motions a little bit today, or certainly in this opening game? Did he strike you as being as up for it as we've seen him in previous week? I know we've got that big finish to talk about, but how did you feel about the way he approached the game?
To be honest, I don't think he was really. I thought he was pretty on it. To be fair, I thought he played to a decent standard, and it wasn't the like last week when I was being the grumpy old man that I am and moaning about his performance in the semi-final last week. This wasn't that whatsoever, and it was a proper sort of performance from him. Like I say, we saw that bit of magic with the Jose de Sousa 120 Shanghai on 3 tops, which it just looks great, doesn't it?
It does, and I like to remind everyone, because there was so very, very few of us allowed in the building that night, Cam, because of the COVID restrictions.
Yeah.
That you and I were both just mere meters away from Jose de Sousa when he did post that 120 with 3 double tops, replicated by Luke Littler tonight. So a little hark back to happier times for us when we were in the venue for that special occasion.
Absolutely, and yeah, I thought it was a solid performance from Littler. I thought Peter Wright's scoring looks a lot better tonight. He's still not set the world alight. We're not sitting here and saying he's back, but it was a lot better all round, to be honest. And he pushed Littler to sort of perform and make sure that he got over the line. And I think he did that. I think it was a professional performance. There was no sort of cocking about like he was last week in his semi-final. So I think fair play to him, good performance, but move on and get ready for next week, I think was part of it.
Yeah, I think there's I was going to say there's been more than one. There's been quite a few occasions in this year's Premier League where we feel that Peter Wright might have got backstage and thought to himself, what the hell was that I was chucking out there? But you're probably not today. You know, he was chucking all right, and he was just edged out by the better player. And I don't think there can be much of an argument about who the better player of the two is at the moment. You know, certainly the way things are working in the last 12 months, just the better player came through it, I think. Enjoyable to watch, though. I think it was a decent game. I suppose now we need to move on. This is the game that we sort of moved through that quickly to get to the game. Because I've had this out, and before we talk in detail, I'm going to present a view to you that I had a sort of a bit of an argument with somebody earlier on about this narrative that because of the structure and the way the Premier League is, that only one game mattered coming into this week. Now, I would say to those people, it's the final. I mean, the English Premier League is arguably one of the biggest and most watched sporting competitions on the planet.
Got nothing on the Championship, mate.
And on this coming Sunday, on the final day of that Premier League campaign, how many games matter? Because I'm going to say 2. And if those 2 teams were playing each other, because and if those teams were playing each other, that's the only game anyone would care. So I don't think it is something that is, you know, typical or because of the way the darts Premier League is structured.
No, I think we've always seen this in the Premier League. You'll get to the last week.
When you've got a league that's got more than 4 competitors in it that runs over multiple weeks, you will inevitably get to the end, and very few of those matches will be able to influence the overall, because that's what a league is. That's how it works. So I try and put that.
Probably 2 games that mattered, I'd say, really, like the top.
Yeah,
and the MVG one, because the MVG one, there's an opportunity for one of these 2 in this game to jump above him and end up playing Humphries rather than playing Littler, if that's what you fancy. I'm not sure you would.
I'm going to get punched in the eye or kicked in the bollocks, isn't it? So, but anyway, we'll move on to the game that did matter. And, I mean, I was very, very much looking forward to this game. And I think an awful lot of darts fans were. And didn't pack the punch that I hoped it would.
No, it was. Yeah, it was kind of the game I thought it might be, and that it would be scrappy and that it would be close. And it was that up until 3-3. But even at that point, you always felt that one of them was playing better than the other.
Yes.
And
Oh,
that was Michael Smith. And he just looked a little bit more comfortable up there. You could tell how much it meant to both of them. And I think that affected Nathan tonight. I think he struggled because of that. He was trying too hard to try and make that and not have what happened to him last year and miss out on the final day. And he just never looked quite right up there tonight, whereas Michael Smith was really, really solid.
Yeah, I got the impression that it was almost lost for Nathan when he lost the bull. So he immediately knows he's up again. In this short format, it's so important to have the bull. If both players are on, if two players are going to come out and they're both going to average a ton and they're both going to do about 35-40% on their doubles, then having that bull is such an advantage on the short format. And I think with Michael having the bull and then Michael getting off to it wasn't a blistering start, but he was on it. The 140s were going in. He was finding his scoring. And I just think literally from that first couple of legs, Nathan looked right. Even at 3-3, I just thought he was struggling to stay in it. And eventually, obviously,
Smith's holds felt like they were comfortable, and Aspinall felt like he was fighting to hold his own throw.
100%, yeah, very much, yeah, without a doubt. I think that was the main point I was trying to get across. And it just didn't have that, even at like you say, at 3-3 and then at 4-3, and we're still nobody's broke yet. But Nathan did looked on the back foot for the whole game, and it was just that knowing that he had to take that break and he couldn't make any inroads whatsoever on that Smith throw. Smith held every game. He held every leg in that match. Nathan didn't make any inroads on that throw at all. And it didn't have that excitement that I hoped it was. It's worth pointing out, because a feature of the show last week was me predicting that Michael Smith would win the match 6-3, which does. And now that is key because we're right at not only are we at the business end of the Darts Premier League for this year, but we're at the business end of the online darts team.
Hang on a minute. I've got your prediction from last week in front of me here. You predicted 6-4.
I think that I didn't record those predictions in the fallout and was pushed to finalize them on the live lounge. And they were the predictions that were recorded and logged.
Yeah, in fairness, the predictions that I put in were also not the ones that I've got on here.
That you stated. So a good little that does drag me up the table a little bit going into last week. Still some work to do, I think, for me in that final week. But yeah, a bit underwhelming.
One thing to mention though in this game before I forget, because it's just come back to me, were probably the turning point because Asp was sat on 32 at this point. The 1-3-2 from Michael Smith to get the first break to go 5-3 up was a lovely bit of magic. The two bullseyes and then the double 16, and that realistically, if it goes 4-4 again there, you could well be sat there and we could end up at 5-5 in a scrap, and Nathan Aspinall wins that last leg because it's what he does.
It is. It's just that the 1-3-6 was gorgeous. The 1-3-2 was gorgeous. There was some really good finishing from Smith, and he looked brilliant in this match. Yeah. Nathan, yes, he won 3 legs. Nathan's highest checkout was a 16. It was a double 8.
Yeah,
which shows you exactly. And we've seen Nathan struggle on his doubles in recent weeks. Now, 30%. It doesn't sound too bad. 3 from 10 it's not where we would expect him, and it's it could be a little bit alarming for him moving into now. There is a little bit. He has got a little bit of a break. There is no off season in darts, but there's he's got an opportunity to manage his schedule a little bit. But the Dublin might. I mean, what do you think? You watch Nathan and follow him a lot more than I do. Is it a concern? Is it becoming a concern, or is it just how he ebbs and flows up and down in his game?
Maybe. I think it probably is a concern. And I think he's highlighted it himself a couple of times in this, that his scoring's been excellent throughout this Premier League. But the reason that he is sitting there on the outside looking in now as we go into finals night is the fact that he's not doubled well enough. And it has been a struggle throughout for him. He's got away with it because he's given himself a lot of chances. And that's what's kept him in that top four for the most part up until tonight. But tonight he didn't score particularly well, and that's when it's really going to hurt you with the doubling, because he's not getting the same number of opportunities that he has been giving himself. Where, yeah, he's been about 30% in games and won them, but he scored that well. He's had like 19, 20 darts at double in 11 legs. He didn't have that tonight. He didn't have enough opportunities because he didn't score well enough, and I think he'll get it right soon enough. He's too good not to, and when he does click again, he's one of the most clinical out there when it comes down to it. And I think
he is, and it is just moments, isn't it? And I think that both of them talked a lot about the emotion in the game tonight, and I just think my view on it, and I'm happy to be told I'm wrong, but I just think during the phase of the game itself, not so much after the game, but during the game itself, I think Smith just managed his emotions that little bit better. I think he just had that little bit extra composure, that extra bit of, I don't want to say professionalism because it makes it sound like Nathan wasn't professional, but when we talk about a professional performance, being able to put everything to one side and just getting on with putting the darts where they need to go, I think that's where Smith just had the edge this evening.
Yeah, I think you summed it up perfectly there. I think that is exactly it. He just did a better job of managing the moment as he was up there. Like you say, it was certainly while the game was going on, and possibly that's why we got such a sort of outpouring from him when he won the game.
That's why I mentioned
it. But I think that's because of how much he was managing it during the game to make sure he stayed calm, that it all just hit him at the end. And sort of
a good sign, though, in a player who hasn't had the best of time. That's not fair because he's played some great stuff. But I think the best way I could put it is he hasn't found that form that he was able to keep running at consistently in his run up to winning the world title. Since winning the world title, he hasn't managed to gather that form and manage his emotions and manage his approach to games. But it's a very positive sign, and we'll talk more about Michael Smith as we go on through the evening. So I'll probably put that aside for at least a few minutes. But in the only game that mattered tonight, Michael Smith, a 6-3 winner, and books his place at the O2 next week for finals night. Now, in a game that probably meant, I mean, arguably less than any other game this evening, I would have thought. Including to one of the competitors in it.
I was going to say, it literally meant nothing to the man on the losing end of this game, who, on his socials again, straight afterwards, as he likes to do.
But he deceived us again, Cam, and he did this the other week. Where now again, and I was the first to brag that I picked the last one absolutely on the nose, and I've got to put my hands up and say that we haven't had a whitewash at all. And spoiler alert, in the league phase this year, there was no whitewash.
No.
I picked this as a whitewash. I thought the Luke Humphries we've seen in recent weeks, in the final of a Euro Tour last week, I thought that Luke Humphries turns up and absolutely bashes up Gezi Price, and Gezi doesn't know what to do with it. Now,
when he broke him in leg one, that didn't it?
Well, I immediately felt a bit of a fool in leg one, because obviously Gezi takes that break immediately, loses the ball, takes the break immediately, and then was playing some bloody lovely stuff to get to 3-1 up. And at that,
it's about 180s in the next leg.
At 3-1, I was thinking to myself, he's going to do this. And let's be honest, he's got it in him just to spite everybody, hasn't he? Just to, like, with everything that's gone on with him for the last few weeks and all the talk about him, he has 100% got it in him just to turn up, monster a performance out, and blow anyone away if they can't find the form to stay with him. But then, and I think this is what we've seen from Gezi a little bit, is the moment that he came, the moment that it stopped working for him. There was a bit at 3-2 when he on his own throw where he dropped a dart and a flight fell off and he just looked a little bit flustered, and then lost throw after that, and from that point onwards, he just didn't look like he was playing the same game. And this Luke Humphries, I'll be again a bit harsh on him here, because 93 average is not what we expect in the Premier League from Luke Humphries.
That's not even his B game, is it, anymore?
Six from 21 on the doubles will rarely...
coming in the leg that he won to level up at 3-3, where they were both absolutely bobbins in that leg. It went on forever, that leg.
It's very rare that you can look back at a Premier League game and see that somebody's gone 6 from 21 and they've won 6-4. It is rare you will get away with that in the Premier League. And I'm tempted to just classify this as a game of darts that happened.
Yeah, it just didn't. It didn't mean a lot. And yeah, other than Gezi starting well and then falling off like he's done, I don't know how many times. I got bored of saying it when I was picking him to win a night every week and just saying that he should have probably won that game. He's done it religiously, started games well and just finished them poorly. Malachy's a 6 from 21's his double percentage. I mean, I'd take 6 from 21. I'd be quite happy with 6 from 21. I'm still fuming that I managed to make the final of our league singles last night. And I played the best player in the league in the final, was 1-0 up, best of 3, and missed 6 darts at double in leg 2 for the match. And then
Cameron.
And lost the game. So talking about double percentage, gutted still.
Dear me. Well, we shall move on from both your wars and the wars of Gerwyn Price. I mean, it's probably it's not a war because he doesn't have to play the Premier League next week, which it sounds like is
it doesn't sound like he even fancied it, to be honest. And
so moving through into this was an interesting one. Michael van Gerwen, we've seen licorice all sorts from in the last few months. We've seen him be absolute bobbins, and we've seen glimpses of the man that we all know he is and can be. But we've seen Rob Cross do some monstrous stuff. Euro Tour winner, played some unbelievable darts, overcoming, against the 9-darter
final on Sunday.
Oh, mate! Like we live streamed it. We did a watch along, and it was honestly that was an unbelievable performance from Rob Cross. And I think that I mean this wasn't Rob Cross playing particularly badly. It was it was just Michael van Gerwen absolutely on it. Like every stat you want, whether it's doubling, whether it's average, whether it's scoring, whether it's just the way that the throw seemed to be going, he looks now a little bit of insider. Not, I know that he had Vincent with him today, and I think he had Vincent with him on the practice board from early this morning. We saw a new set of darts.
If you're going to go up against Rob Cross, who is quite deliberate in the way that he throws, practicing with Vincent van der Voort is probably not ideal.
No, I think from what I understand of that practice session, it was very, very much exclusively driven by the drilling down into the action of Michael van Gerwen. And what I think we saw tonight was, and I will come to the new set of darts in a moment, because we did see a new set of darts from him.
Yes, they are.
But what we saw, I think, was we seem to have seen him fighting against this evolution of throw. This whatever's happening to his throw, it seems that he's been fighting it. Whereas tonight, certainly in this game, it looked like he'd almost embraced to it and sort of committed to this new throw. And it seemed to be very fluid, or much more fluid, because he didn't seem to be fighting against it. He wasn't trying to adjust and change. He was just he just seemed to allow it to happen. And
yeah, and I think whether that's just because there's slightly heavier set of darts and he's got to throw them slightly firmer, so you've got to commit to the throw a little bit more. And whether that's worked for him, I don't know. But it certainly works in this game.
They look very, very much like. In fact, I can't show it to everyone. I'll send you a quick WhatsApp now of what I think they were. So they looked very, very. I saw that I zoomed in on the freeze frame. So they are the MVG authentic Winmore darts, and they were almost every ridge was. Well, they were, I think, a sort of customized specialist version of that dart.
Course. Yeah, pretty similar, I would say.
Yeah, obviously the markings that you get on them in the shop weren't on them, and I think it was almost a version, even maybe a prototype of something similar.
Apparently, they were the ones he used to win his UK Open a few years ago.
Yeah,
so an old set rather than a new set.
Well, either that or something. I think there might be a prototype based on. I think is the narrative that I think we're at. But I mean, 50% on his doubles, 106 average, very hard to argue against. Interesting. There wasn't a great deal of peril in tonight for Michael van Gerwen because he was qualified, and I think he's the experienced professional that realizes it doesn't really matter too much who he plays next week, because you have to beat everyone in order to win. And I think he's been there enough times. He knows that. It doesn't make any difference to him who he plays in the quarters and who he plays in the final, because he just knows he has to be the best man on the night to win it. I will be very, very intrigued if he's carrying those same set of darts into next week. I think that would be really interesting. If he's using those darts again next week, I mean, what that tells me is, because next week really means something to him, it's very important. If we see him with those darts next week, they are feeling good. He's practicing well with them. They must be working with the new throw, or certainly the adaptation he's making to the new throw. But no, I thought, again, a game of darts that happened, but very, very positive for Michael van Gerwen being able to find that level of performance. And Rob Cross, I think, like much of his Premier League campaign, and I felt a little bit like this game almost summed up his campaign, because he's spent 16 weeks playing well and not getting a lot for it, and he's exactly the same things happened tonight, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, exactly that. A bit like Gezzy's game summed up his campaign. This very much summed up Rob Cross's campaign. He played well, possibly just didn't quite do things at the right time towards the end of the game. From getting to 4-1 up, it looked like he was going to cruise through this game and he was going to run away with it, and just missed a couple of opportunities. And from there, he got punished like he has done throughout this tournament.
So, semi-finals. And interestingly, we can now reveal that the semi-final lineup we saw tonight is the exact semi-final lineup that we're going to see next week on the 23rd of May.
It's very odd how it works, isn't it?
It's incredibly odd. Now, what we did see, I mean, we've seen dry runs and then we've seen it matter. So we saw last week Aspinall and Smith have a bit of a dry run, and tonight it mattered, and it was repeat rather than revenge. And it'd be interesting because and we'll come to it in predictions a bit later on, but I'd already half predicted next week, and it was pretty much exactly what happened in these next few games we're going to talk about. But we saw in the first semi-final, I thought it was a good watch, but I've been very, very complimentary of Luke Littler in recent weeks, finding ways to win a match with his B game. And he has done. He's done better and better at finding ways to win matches with his B game. This wasn't one of them, and it was maybe just when both of them were. I mean, they were both at their B game in this game, but we saw an awful lot of breakthroughs. I mean, Luke Littler stormed to a 3-0 lead. Let's not forget.
Yeah,
but did Michael Smith just experience of that? Nothing. It's not going quite right. I know I'm throwing my B game. I know how to win from here. Was it a bit of that we saw?
Well, from what Smith said in his interview after, again, I'm going to do it once again. I do it every week. Spoiler alert: Michael Smith won the night, which you already know if you're watching us anyway. But in his interview afterwards, having won the night, he said in this game against Littler, in like 3 or 4, whichever leg it was, where Littler tried to do the 1-5-5 by going treble 20, treble 15 bull, rather than the usual 19s route. He said that just sort of clicked in his head, and he thought, right, no, I'm having you now for that.
And fair enough. That'll do. That'll keep you going.
Yeah, I think cocking around a little bit. And I know it's Littler doing what he does, and he likes to leave the ball, and he always fancies it. But doing that sort of thing, there's certain players it'll work against and that it'll rattle them, and there's certain players that will then just click into gear at that point. And I think Michael Smith's not the one to try and rattle with any silly games, because I don't think he's the sort of player that he bothers. If anything, it just puts him into a better gear, and he plays better from there on.
Yeah, and I do think it's another example of where we've seen like real professional mental strength from Michael Smith tonight. And we'll talk about the final, but just again, a slightly different type, because this was a different game. But I think he's done very well because let's be honest, all of the peril tonight was on game one, and he had that outpouring of emotion, and it must have felt for like a huge, like it's almost hard to see how he got the energy, like the adrenaline.
Well, he says he sort of lent to that himself as well when he got interviewed, in that he said he felt like he had nothing when he first went up there on stage for this semi-final. It wasn't until it sort of woke him up when Littler tried to do the 1-5-5 that he said up until that point, he just felt like he had nothing left after everything that he'd gone through with the first game. And I think it sort of showed and it told, but from that point on, I thought he played really well. And again, I don't know whether this is a little bit concerning. And I've not got the stats in front of me or anything like that. This is just purely off watching it and just my eye when watching it. But I don't think Littler's played particularly well in any semi-final throughout this. He's been really good in the first game every time, like consistently picking up first round wins. But I think there's been a drop off almost every single time once we've got into that semi-final.
Yeah, he's won more first nights than anybody else. So in 16 weeks, Luke Littler's only lost 3 quarterfinals.
Yeah.
In 16, so 13 weeks out of 16, he has at least won his first game, which is genuine. Which certainly, when you compare that with I mean, next along Luke Humphries, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So he's 2 more than the best player on the planet in terms of, and he's showing he's a fast starter, and he can come out and he can start fast. Now, shorter format next week. We've only got 2 games, but the games are longer, which we'll come to. But we'll come to predictions in a bit, but it may or may not change your opinion on what happens next week. With that record of opening night or start of the night wins for Luke.
Yeah.
But yeah, it didn't light up. There was nothing, I mean, there was a very, very, very nice. What did Smith hit? Was it the
156 to get himself on the board?
156? Yeah, delicious.
Yeah, and it was
very, very nice.
It couldn't have been any better. Like the double 18 was just perfectly in the middle of the double. The two treble 20s. The first one was just where he wanted it, top of the treble bed, and then just clattered the second one into it. It was just as good as it could have looked. That.
And that sends Michael Smith, there's it, carrying on. And could it be a predetermined for next week? We will wait and see. Next semi-final. So again, I talked a little bit about how Luke Humphries was a bit underwhelming. He was all right against Kessie Price, but then the Luke that we used to seeing, the Luke we saw at the weekend Euro Tour, here he turns up, 104 average, 75% on his doubles. MVG played very, very well in this game, but he, like we've said recently, Luke Humphries' A game doesn't get matched. At the minute, it doesn't. If he plays his A game and holds it there, Michael van Gerwen, and he is, it's sad to say, as I sit here in a Michael van Gerwen top, his A game.
You treated yourself to that one. You dropped it in the group a couple of weeks ago that you'd.
It's nice, isn't it?
Yeah,
I'm very pleased with it. It's a comfortable addition. This is, mate. Very nice.
I do love a little quarter zip as well. You can't go wrong with a quarter zip.
Oh, it's a very lovely bit of kit. I'd like it if it could vary and maybe do a few other colours, and a few other players would be good. I think I could build a collection up of these. But Michael van Gerwen did very little wrong here, but his A game isn't where Humphries' A game is. I mean, it's not Luke Littler either, but Humphries is the Luke we're currently talking about. But van Gerwen, his A game just isn't there at the minute. We saw a bit of a drop off in scoring from the first game. He himself 50% on the doubles, very, very little wrong. But Luke just had it, didn't he? To be honest, he had the darts. He took that very early break, and then that was it. There was one break to throw.
There, didn't he, almost, which is ridiculous to say with how well he's played. But he did feel a little bit like he was just sort of managing it from there and just.
Yeah, he got that break early. He won the ball, came out, held, took the break, 2-0 up, and from that point, he just never looked worried or stressed. And I think he just, the shackles were off. He didn't have to think about it too much. He was just, it was almost like a practice game, I think. But he did what he needed to do. He scored very well on a big stage against a big player. And that won't have done him any harm ahead of a semi-final with Michael van Gerwen on finals night. To average, to play like that and to beat Michael van Gerwen like that will have done Luke Humphries absolutely no harm whatsoever. So final, and yeah, didn't pick it. So I picked the final. The final I picked was these two players. I did pick a Humphries Smith final, but foolishly I went for a Humphries victory, and there was a little bit of drop off in performance from the rest of the night from Humphries. It's not difficult to really see how or why that would happen. To him there was very little on this game, certainly after what he just done to Michael van Gerwen, and Smith just managed to just carry that form through, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, and I give you some credit. Although you picked the wrong result when you officially put your predictions in, when you did them on here last week, you had Smith winning. So, I mean, if you pick your two finalists and you're going to pick both of them to win it, then you are likely going to get it right at some point.
Yeah, this is it.
If you have two choices and they play each other in the final, you can't lose. So, yeah, I thought this was a really good game.
It was watchable, wasn't it? It was a very and I didn't and I did not expect watchable darts tonight. I thought it was going to be a bit of a chore to chop.
Especially once we got to this stage and everything's sort of done and finished with at that point, and nothing can change in the table. You kind of think, how much are they really going to care about it? Does Humphries actually want to be up there when he got Leeds playing in the back room, or does he want to just be sat there watching the victory? But it probably helped him the fact that they were 4-0 up at that point, and he didn't really have to
Wasn't
worry
really
about
stressing. Well, yeah, he wasn't having to check the scores, was he? He wasn't checking his. But it was. I just thought it was a really. I mean, the finishes, the fact that both of them found something replay worthy. You know, the 170 from Humphries, the 140 from Smith. That adds to it. That makes you feel like you've seen a proper game, doesn't it?
I think the credit I can sort of pay this game is that it took me attention away from the golf, and when there's a major on in the golf, it's very difficult to sort of distract me from that. But I couldn't tell you what happened in the golf for the 15 minutes where these two were playing.
Well, I think that tells us everything we need to know, doesn't it? Tells us everything we need to know. Now, what that doesn't do on nights 1 and legs 1 and everything else is it doesn't, even with a night win, take Michael Smith above Michael van Gerwen, even though they both finished on 29 points. So a quick recap on the league. We won't talk about the bottom few again because it just seems like we're taking the mick. Luke Littler, victorious, wins. And do you remember when people said they weren't sure he was ready for the Premier League?
Yeah, no, absolutely not ready. I still think.
Oh man,
no, I mean he's clearly not ready for it. He's only gone.
He's made 6 finals.
Has he broke the record there now?
Which record? He's broken loads of them.
The points record. Johnny Clayton's points record of 40.
You know, he's tied it, 40 points.
Tied it. Yeah, so he needed to win the semi, didn't he?
Yeah. So 40 points. He's made 6 finals. He's won 4 of them. Like we said earlier, he's only lost in the first round 3 times. That's a good
point that Dougie makes in the chat, actually. I'll give him credit for that. There was the night record win on the line for Luke Humphries in the final. There was something to play for, but
if you care about
that at this point.
Luke Humphries finishes in 2nd place on 36 points. Michael van Gerwen in 3rd place on 29 points. Also on 29 points, 4th place, Michael Smith. It seems a long way away after that night win. Nathan Aspinall back on 25. It does with that night win. When you look, the league table doesn't show you how close Nathan Aspinall came, does it? Because when you look at the league table, he's a night win away from being there. But that's not the full story.
No.
Which, as we bring to an end, it saddens me slightly because we've had a lot of fun this year on the Premier League fallouts. But
nicely bookended as well, to be fair, with Michael Smith winning the first week and the last week of the league stage.
It does, and let's. I mean, there's loads of different theories about how it should be, or about how you would want to go into finals night. Is there a better way to go into it than winning? Probably not. But Michael Smith, just his last 3 weeks, he's had 2 semi-finals and a win. You know, he's really put the work in those last 3 weeks to seal that place up, because 3-4 weeks ago, we were still talking about Rob Cross. Nathan Aspinall was in 3rd above Michael van Gerwen, and Michael Smith, you would have been a very brave man to back him from where he was. So with the form that Rob Cross was in, the way that, as I say, Nathan Aspinall was in 3rd and looked like almost being sealed into 3rd at one point.
Yeah.
Michael van Gerwen looked like the one of the top 4 that was at risk. And I think Michael Smith's done a really good job of consolidating in those last few weeks to claim that place. And I think he hits finals night in a very, very strong position. So we've done the action tonight. We've done the final league table. It's now time. It's going to have to be time for predictions for next week. Now,
that is
one. So the predicting wine. Last time this year, the predicting wine. My last Premier League predictions of the year. So the predicting wine is going to have to come out.
Yeah, that's it.
Special predicting wine. Now,
I mean, if you listen to the predicting wine, you might be all right. You might get it right. If you actually go with what you put in there.
The wine knows, mate. Right. So we've still got a really busy chat room. In fact, we in terms of viewers, we're doing very, very well this evening compared to a normal night. Everyone's
giving us a little stat there that Smith is the first player to win night one and then make the playoffs.
Is that a real fact? Has someone done that research?
I'm happy to believe Joel on it. I have no reason to think that he's lying to us.
No, I'll take it. I'm just impressed that I've just flicked back to the chat room there. I'm just very impressed that someone's taken the time to go through and find that out, and I appreciate you for it, because that's a gorgeous little.
There you are. Snake bite in 2020.
Right, under the new format. Are we saying? Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then
Dolby in 2020.
Of course, under the new format, because there was no bloody night winner on the old.
I did think that, but I was
Come on, Daniel, switch on.
That was Wednesday, Pro Tour and Euro Tour.
Mid-June. I can tell you it, and it's all it's doing here is just giving everybody thinking time for what's happening next. So,
I'm absolutely using the chat room here to.
Right, 31st of May. 31st of May is the US. So we're going to America at the end of this month.
Oh wait, you haven't told me about that. When me and you going?
No, you're not going. I'm not invited either.
Nah.
I think Barzy's going. 11th of June, Players Championship events, 11th and 12th. And then Euro Tour, 21st of June. So mid-June, 11th of June for the Pro Tour, 21st of June for the next Euro Tour event, which I think is Euro Tour 7 or 8.
A bit of US darts masters in between.
Somewhere around there, I think, unless there's a Euro Tour before.
There's one after the final. Yeah, there is. Are the Dutch darts masters or one of?
Let me have a look.
I think. Oh
yes, yeah, there it is. There it is.
To win it to make sure that he remains seeded.
Nordic Darts Masters. That's the one. That's what it is. End of May. Right. Next week. In the chat room, don't forget, you are all very welcome invited. As always, please share your predictions for next week. We can do all the games. There's only going to be 3 of them. We'll do them all. Whatever you think it's going to be, please stick them in the chat room. We'll stick them on the screen. We'll all have a laugh at anyone that says anything ludicrous. Mind you, there's very much. I tell you what, there's very little you could pick here, and you could almost point out and say that's an absurd pick, because, so first and foremost, everyone,
you're 10-0. It might be a bit of an odd one, but
yeah. So that you mentioned 10-0. First and foremost, everyone in the chat room, we are on a slightly longer format next week, so we are first to 10. Best of 19, first to 10. Our opening game, as we have it listed, and let's assume that that's going to be the case, is going to be Luke Littler against Michael Smith. Now, I know what I'm doing with this one, Cameron, but I will come to you first for your predictions. What are you going with for this one?
I think on this one, a little bit like I've just seen in the chat there, I think that Michael Smith has got Luke Littler's number. And I think it will be another performance that is just, we'll keep using that word, professional. And he'll be steady and consistent. And that will be enough to get him a win. 10-6. I think he actually wins it relatively comfortably.
Well, I knew exactly where I was going. And then I'm encouraged to see several in the chat going with exactly the same score as me. I am going with a Michael Smith 10-7. I think
I was going to go 10-7, but I saw a lot of people going 10-7, and I wanted.
Well, I see. My mind was already made up. I was already into it, and I wasn't going to let anything just pull me away from it. But I think it's difficult for me to not repeat everything you've just said in truth. I think we will see a performance very similar to what we saw tonight. I think it will be a professional steadied, composed performance from Michael Smith.
Yeah.
There is an interesting swerve for those that don't know. Littler and Humphries will have the bull in their matches next week.
Yeah, they don't have to win the bull, do they?
There is no bulling up. There's no sort of backstage throwing at the bull. They will start first, and that is the right that they have earned from their position number 1 and 2 finish.
Correctly so, I'd say as well. I think that's the right way to do it.
Oh, I think it's a lovely little. I fully agree. But no, I'm a 10-7 Smith winner. That's why I went 10-7 rather than anything else, because I just thought, well, it's too many breaks of throw otherwise. In the chat room,
I didn't get that technical and consider that before.
See the wine, the predicting wine's working.
I'm so again this week. I don't know what's
goodness me. You're all right. Video Smurf's gone. He's gone 10-8 to Bully Boy. It says his number. Dougie has gone, like me, a 10-7 victory. Joel again is a 10-7 Smith winner. Daz has gone Littler, winning 10-9 if he wins the bull. Now he's got the bull, Daz, so I'm going to stick with your 10-9. Malachi's got Littler 8-10 Smith, so he's got Smith a 10-8 winner. I think, David, that is a bold, and I'm here for it. If it happens, I'll be jumping around the kitchen. Littler throws a 9 and wins in a last leg decider. That'd be
you wouldn't put it past him, would you? To be fair, let's be honest.
McCann's got Littler winning, no messing about. Daz has now revised his his original prediction was Littler will win 10-9 if he wins the bull. Now he knows he's going first. He's going to win 10-4. So that's
But so that's on the fact that he's got the bull, which is what he wanted anyway.
Maybe he was worried about the stress of having to win the bull.
Yeah.
And now he knows he doesn't. He's going to come to it much more relaxed and bash him up 10-4. I think that is the most we've ever seen the chat room predict against Luke Littler ever.
Yeah.
Since he came on the scene, we've never seen the chat room back against Luke Littler that heavy. Yeah. Next one then. Luke Humphries against Michael van Gerwen, 1st to 10. Now, I put you under pressure first, Cam, so I will weigh in with this one if you would do me the honour. Those in the chat room, again, stick your predictions in for Luke Humphries against Michael van Gerwen. I am going to go with a Luke Humphries victory. I think he will find that A game. I think he averages around 104, 105, and I think he wins it. Throw in first, 10-5.
Oh, you can't do that to me.
Oh, have I took your pick?
You have already got it written. I've already written it down. Well, I've got Luke Humphries 10-5 as well. I think 2 breaks a throw.
Yep, that's exactly what I was counting. I thought, right, there we go. Yep.
2 breaks a throw, wins 10-5. I think absolutely spot on there, and I don't think there's any possibility of any other result.
No, well, I'm glad we're on the same page. I think that one. In the chat room, we got. I don't think we've got anyone arguing too far against us, mate. I think Video Smith's got Humphries winning 10-7. Elsewhere, Dougie's got Cool Hand winning 10-6. Daz has got a 10-6 as well. Joel has got 10-5.5. Was he doing Asian handicaps or something?
He is. That's
Joel's on the Asian handicap.
He's got from Joel.
Yeah, so Joel's got. I'm going to assume it's a 10-5. I guess.
No, you got to round that up to 10-6.
Well, maybe I don't really know what to do with that one. Joel, please clarify, Joel, if you're still there.
You've absolutely confused us.
Again. probably go out on a limb and say first time we've ever done some picks. No, he's sticking with 5.5. He's gone.
Yeah.
Well done, Joel. Do you know what?
Which half of the leg's he going to win?
Make a decision and stick with it. I'm all for that.
You're going to win the first half or the second half of that leg?
Well, he'd be better off winning the second half than the first half, wouldn't he?
Usually, yeah.
He'd be better off doing that than coming out, hitting 6 perfect darts and then losing the back half of the leg. Top quality.
It's descended into utter madness. It's only taken 16 weeks, but we've descended into chaos on the final night of the league stage.
If you think this is the first time we've been chaotic, mate,
it's
only because you're sober this week. You haven't realised the other chaos. That's all.
Yeah, that's it. I can remember it.
The show's called the Fallout Bar, and we should treat it as a bar. That's the whole point of the show.
Yeah, I don't know what I'm doing.
So
basically, what it was you text me to say that you might miss some of the first game. So I thought I need to get home from work in time to make sure I see the first game. I didn't have time to go to the shop.
Yeah, so we've got. I mean, while everyone gets a minute to think about the final, this is unbelievably dangerous. So there's a shop close by to me. Well, I say a shop, a petrol station with an off license in it.
Yeah.
That's now gone on to Just Eat and various other apps.
Oh, fantastic! Yeah.
That will deliver to my house for 100 English pence, £1 delivery. So I can be sat in the house and fancy something. Could be a Rustler's burger or 4 bottles of wine. Could be a Rustler's burger and 4 bottles of wine.
Yeah, I was going to say they're not usually exclusive, those ones.
Normally is. And for 100 pence, someone will just fetch it to the door in about 20 minutes. Dangerous. Should be banned. That's not good for a man as weak-willed as I am. That is very dangerous.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I'm not born here to be adding any willpower to the conversation. I have very, very little, as you well know.
Right. So, final predictions. We've gone up.
We have gone up. The final is not best of 19. The final is best of 21. First to 11.
Of 21, which, yes, for the mathematics aficionados among you, will know automatically it's first to 11. So, Cam, I'll give you the honour. The last prediction of the 2024 darts or Premier League of darts, Premier League darts.
Before I make my prediction, even though we've just been procrastinating over this to give ourselves time to do it, how does the bull work for the final? Anyone in the chat know? Because I don't know.
You've stumped me there. If anyone in the chat room knows, and there's normally, to be fair, there's normally far more knowledge in the chat room than there is on the bloody stream.
Well, because what I can't work out is whether it goes off the fact of the winner of the match that involved the number 1 seed gets the ball.
Yeah, or the highest ranked
remaining seed gets the ball.
You know, if I'm totally honest with you, Cam, it's a knowledge gap for me. That if anyone in the chat room knows, please pitch in and help us out.
Well,
otherwise,
let's make a prediction anyway. But if anyone knows, that'd be lovely, and you might help Mr. Simpson out. I am going against what I think most of the chat room will go with. I think Michael Smith wins this.
Oh,
I think he averages lower than Humphries, but I think he wins it, and I think he wins it 11-9 and a half. No halves. I'm not having any halves on mine. Just 11-9.
Right. So there are only 3 players. Jarlath's not in the chat room, so he can't moan about this. There are only 3 players that have won the PDC Triple Crown. And I think that by July, there'll be 4.
Okay.
But that won't happen, in my opinion, unless Luke Humphries wins the Premier League. And I think he's going to win the Premier League. And I think he's going to do it in some level of style. I think it's going to be 11-7 is what I think we're going to see. I'm going to go Luke Humphries 11-7. In the chat room, the video Smurf has got, wow, Humphries against Smith, 11-10, 100 average on both. If that happens, I'll be a happy man because it'll have been a bloody good game.
It'll be a great watch if that happens.
Luke beating Bully Boy 11-8. Daz is on the same team as me. He's gone Humphries 11-7. Joel is Humphries 11-8. You are all on your own, Cam, I think, with a Michael Smith pick.
To be fair, Daz has gone Humphries 11-7 unless he's got the bull, and then it'll be 11-1 or something.
Yeah, and Joel might throw half a leg in for somebody.
Yeah, well, I'm waiting for Joel's. Oh no, he's not gone half a leg.
He's not. He's round. He's gone full round legs. It's only the quirky semi-final that he's going to.
He's the only man he believes can win half a leg is Michael van Gerwen.
Yeah, in the Asian handicap. So, ladies and gentlemen, that draws to a close what's been a bloody lovely 16 weeks for me. Yeah, I am one of, and this is probably why I've ended up, I'm not going to say saddle, but let's say the most consistent member of the team on these Fallout bars this year, because I do really enjoy the Premier League, both in person and on the television, because I accept it for what it is. It is an exhibition where some very good darts players play each other on the telly, and some fun things happen, and we get to enjoy it. So what the Premier League is, and if you take it more seriously than that, you need help.
It would be good if we could throw in like a championship darts as well. Like it's like just a bit more chaos. Like you can win half a leg and like there's no VAR and it's just.
Oh yeah, and ideally within the last couple of from nowhere, someone comes from like battling relegation to all of a sudden being in the playoffs, and it's like absolutely.
I just see Peter Wright's reaction when he gets relegated to the championship.
Yeah, halfway through, there's some sort of transfer window where someone gets their darts bought off them. Like their best set of darts are bought by a very rich Premier League player.
Yeah, it's just they've had a windfall. We've got a new sponsor, and they've come in and just
You have to throw a shit set of Brass Argos darts for the rest of the campaign because all your best darts have been bought off you. Oh dear me! Right, so next week, folks, something different. Quite a lot. In fact, I think, several thousand, which was genuinely remarkable. A few thousands of people joined Phil and I on Sunday afternoon to watch along the Euro Tour final session. And it went that well that what we've decided is we're going to do the same next week for Premier League finals night. So we're going to do a watch along live. We won't be showing the darts, of course, because licensing reasons and everything else, but we will be here all night from the darts starting to have a bit of crack and banter, watch along. Hopefully we'll get loads of action in the chat room, almost like think of it as an alternative comedy, like when you used to watch DVDs and you could put the sort of commentary track on the DVD and you have some idiots chatting alongside, distracting you from your film. It's exactly what we're going to try and provide next week. We don't know who's going to be on it yet. It's definitely going to be me. Cam, are you on it next week? Are you on watching along?
I might be on. I might be
you
on.
In part? I think I think what you might find, folks, is different members of the team dropping in and out at different points. I'm probably going to steer the ship from start to finish. Could be a mess by the end because
Danson's the boat driver.
It could be chaos by the end of the night. But so next week's something a little bit different. In order to make sure that you don't miss out on that, make sure you are subscribed to the channel. Hit the little bell button to make sure you get notifications when we are live. Thank you genuinely, everybody, for your consistent participation in the chat room this year for the last 16 weeks. It's genuinely made this stream worth doing.
Oh, it'd be absolutely bobbins if it was just me talking to you, wouldn't it?
It's hard work in it, and it's been amazing to have you all on board for the last few weeks. Cam, I know we've had a few in, but it's been pretty much you along with me for nearly all of it. So thank you very much as well for this Premier League campaign of Fallout bars.
It's a pleasure, mate. Always a pleasure.
And I look forward to seeing everybody next week. Very exciting to do a watch along. We've never done it before for the Premier League. And if I don't see you next week for the watch along, we will see you when we're going to do Fallout bars. I'll tell you what we're doing. Here's a little pre-announcement.
We have got a little Fallout bar that we're chucking in, haven't we?
I've got a secret little Fallout bar nobody knows about yet, but we're doing World Cup Fallout bars.
Yes.
That's what we're doing. It's going to be brilliant. Right. If I don't see you next week, folks, I'll see you Fallout bars for the World Cup. Take care. Thank you very much. And good night.